Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm joined with Sheikh Mohammed Tarawneh with me, and we're going to go over, in the same way as we did in the first episode, the misconceptions surrounding jihad and terrorism. And inshallah, we'll try and cover a lot of ground with some of the most important questions asked. Jazakumullah khairan for coming today, Sheikh. For those who don't know, Sheikh Mohammed Tarawneh is someone who's, mashallah, is elevated to the level of, I think you're doing PhD now, isn't that? Or you nearly finished your PhD in the secular sciences, but also studied for very many years in Jordan. Is that correct? Where you were initially from?
Jordan and Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia as well. Okay, so once again, someone who's been active in the community trying to prevent terrorism, and quite an open advocate of counter-extremism, if you like, working in the community on front lines to stop this. So we're going to ask some questions, regarding terrorism and jihad.
Yes.
First question: are Muslims commanded to fight all non-Muslims?
No, the Muslims are not commanded to fight all non-Muslims.
Yes.
Because Allah Azza wa Jalla has said in the Quran, in many places as well, that Allah Azza wa Jalla has said, mentioned in the Quran, لا ينهاكم الله عن الذين يقاتلوكم ولم يخرجوكم من دياركم أن تبروهم وتقسطوا إليهم إن الله يحب المقسطين. That Allah Azza wa Jalla forbid you not, those ones who didn't fight you and didn't drag you away from your houses, to be good to them, even to be just with them. So that's what Allah
And this
has
is in chapter 60, verse 8 of the Quran.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So Allah didn't command us to do
Well,
that.
they say that, they cite the hadith of, I think Ibn Umar, where he says that, أمرت أن أقاتل الناس. I have been commanded to kill all the people, until حتى يقولوا أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله
حتى يشهدوا أن لا إله إلا الله.
Yeah.
Now this hadith has two understandings amongst the scholars of Islam. The first understanding, we need to understand the steps of dealing, of the steps that the Prophet ﷺ, how he dealt with the disbeliever. For example, firstly the da'wah, calling them to Islam. So some of them who accepted Islam, and some of them who didn't accept Islam. The people who didn't accept Islam within the Muslim community, they pay the jizya. That's what generally it is. The one who's outside, for example, the Muslim territory, then there is kind of a treaty. They could have, for example, a treaty like a ahd.
But here, the point of contention is they're saying an-nas here means all people. Were in the Quran it says in an-nas qad jama'u lakum, for example, but it's not all the people in the world, is it?
Yeah, I understand. Now here, this is one understanding. I'm just bringing this. Now here, for those ones who didn't accept Islam and they didn't fight Muslims, that this is the previous verse that it applies to them.
Yes.
For the other ones who didn't accept Islam, and not just that they fought Muslims, then the way to respond to them. That's what I'm.
So it's not talking about all the people. No.
First, it's not talking about all the people. Secondly, as well, on the other side, as well, the Arabs as well who came, they fought the Prophet ﷺ, they tried to stop the da'wah of Islam, they tried to kill Muslims, then Allah Azza wa Jalla has commanded the Prophet ﷺ to fight them back. So there is these two understanding, and all again these two understanding will imply that of course they are not all the people that deserve to be fought.
And the verse I quoted is in Surah I think it's Surah Al-Imran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was saying that the people have come against you.
Yes.
And the same construction there, an-nas, meaning, so if this was all the people, then it would suggest all the population of the world was there.
No,
so it's not there. Alright, so number two, what is the definition of jihad?
The definition of jihad means to struggle. That's the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned in the hadith, he said the highest jihad is to struggle against your desire, to go to do jihad against your desire, your own, for example.
Someone said this hadith is weak.
No. Now here, this understanding, even if the hadith regarding the weakness of the hadith, but the understanding of it is correct, because we know we struggle against our desire, we struggle against our desire, we struggle against the shaitan. This is a form of jihad. As well, that the person will do as well jihad against, for example, fighting, for example, the doubts and all of these things, and that's one of the things as well. It's within his understanding. Thirdly, as well, dealing with the people, form of jihad as well, which is not many people, which is jihad bil qalam or jihad bil lisan. Like, for example, to deal for anyone, for example, who's attacking Islam, to return this misconception and to to go against it in a way, in an academic way, in a formal way. ألسنتكم, that's all. And as well with your tongues, and as well it implies as well with the writing, if there is writing, or now on the internet for anyone who's, for example, attacking Islam.
So you're doing jihad now.
we are doing it to show the truth. That's one of the things. And of course as well defending your territory and all of these things. That's a form of jihad. If there is something people
and giving money as well, charity.
Of course. That's what it is.
Okay, excellent. So it's not just limited to, as they would want to suggest, fighting the disbelievers in a physical way. And of course, that is part of the religion, but that is with many constraints that, of course, are not realized by those individuals.
Exactly.
Are Muslims allowed to kill innocent people?
Oh, that's not allowed. That is one of the major sins in Islam as well. Even that one of the companions, I think Abdullah bin Umar bin Adil Mufrad, Abdullah bin Abbas, he said even the major sins, he said even qatlu dasama, meaning dasama, a soul, an innocent soul. That's it's severely forbidden in Islam. Of course, an innocent person, that Allah didn't allow that to happen in Islam, and all the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is not permissible to do that. Even when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one day there is a war that happens, and then they found a woman being killed, and then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, he said she shouldn't be killed here, because even though those people who rage war against the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, rage war against the companion, they fought him, and a woman, she was there. What she was doing there, we don't know. But yet the Prophet ﷺ, he condemned killing her because she was an innocent person. She was killed. She could be killed by the Muslims or the other ones, but yet the Prophet ﷺ, he condemned that act. And similarly, an innocent person is not allowed to be harmed.
Like chapter 5:32 of the Quran. وكذلك كتبنا على بني إسرائيل إنه من قتل نفسا بغير نفس فكما قتل نفسا. So this verse, and also the one that we talked about, chapter 60 verse 8 in Surah Al-Mumtahina as well. So these are very clear verses.
Very clear.
And you know what I find also a clear thing, Sheikh, as well, is the hadith talking about you're not allowed to kill a mu'ahad or a musta'min.
Yeah, that's another. There's here someone who's innocent person, not a mu'ahad, not a musta'man, just for the sake of that. This is totally condemned. Now, someone who's mu'ahad, someone who you have between you and him a treaty that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said من آذى ذميا فقد آذاني, whoever harmed a dhimmi, someone with dhimmi, someone who lives amongst the Muslims, and he's not Muslim but he lives amongst the Muslims, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he just like he's harming the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And similarly with the mu'ahad, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said he is
لم يرح رائحة الجنة.
Subhanallah, the one who tried
you never smelled prayer,
you never even smell the fragrance of Jannah. For those ones who try, especially who try, for example, to harm and try to kill or something like that, or for anyone who's a mu'ahad, who has a treaty. And this applies as well with the land that you are living in. Now here, as we know that when Muslims that live in a non-Muslim land, they have the visa they have, or the documents that they have, or citizenship that they have. There's kind of a treaty between him and them, between the Muslims and them, which means you cannot harm them in their blood, you cannot harm them in their wealth, you cannot do that, and you cannot even harm them in any way or form. Now there is another hadith, which is a beautiful hadith, that the Prophet ﷺ, he said, ليس منا من لم يأمن جاره بوائقه. He said he's not one of us. The one who's his neighbor, he's not safe from his plotting. He's not one of us. Regardless, did the Prophet ﷺ name if his neighbor was Muslim or not? No. It's anyone. So that's why it is not allowed, of course, especially when living in a West land, in a West countries, to harm any innocent person, or because of the treaty between Muslims and them.
Yes. Now, very good. Question number 4: are Muslims commanded to hate all non-Muslims?
No, of course not. We have as well. Allah has allowed Muslims to marry Jews or Christian women.
What they're referring to, Sheikh, is the verse in the Quran that's لا تتخذوا بطانة من دونكم. Don't take close allies.
Allies in faith. That's how it is. That's how it is. Yeah, in faith again.
Yes.
Do you take them as allies in faith? The other things, for example, cannot a husband love his wife?
So you're differentiating between what you refer to as حب الطبيعة.
Yeah, the natural love. And for example,
allying with one on faith.
In faith. That's how is it. So we
yeah.
have, because we Muslims, we know we love each other for the sake of Allah Azza wa
Yeah.
Jal. This is the love of faith.
Yeah.
Of course, we don't love someone for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal, who is not, who doesn't have the faith of Islam.
Yes.
But at the same time, we'll have, for example, our natural love and respect as well.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean as well, if you don't love someone, you don't respect him.
Yeah.
You could be neutral to someone.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't love
So
him.
if,
You don't
for
hate him.
example, someone who's got a mother who's not a Muslim, he's allowed to love her, no?
Of course, what not allowed is he must love her. He must obey.
There's no injunction not to love her.
A'udhu billah, he has to love her, he has to respect her, he has to treat her in a good way. And not just that, even the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, when he mentioned to one of the companions, he said, ilzam qadamaha fadhamma al-jannah. He said, stick to her feet, because there is Jannah.
There's a weak hadith as well?
No, not تحت أقدامنا. That's the one which is weak. He said ilzam qadamaha. He said, stick to her feet.
Yes.
He's then to honor the mother and to humble the child. Yeah, not to say, he didn't say stick to her. He said stick to her feet. Yeah? This is how much to humble yourself to her feet, and as well because the Jannah is there. So that's important for us to understand.
For that. Well, on the fifth question, we've done that in 2 minutes. Let's see if we can do this maybe in less. Was Islam spread by the sword? Very, very popular question.
Why we are Muslims now? There's no one with a sword behind us. I don't understand it. So suppose, let's say we say, since I'm a mathematician, so I say if you have one example which is to go against this rule, that means it is wrong. Now, suppose it happened. What happened to the people after? For example, people in Pakistan, people in Indonesia. Why they accept Islam now? If Islam was spread by sword amongst them, why are they still Muslims now? And that's why what we need to know, that Islam, no, it wasn't spread by sword. Because that's why the people, they kept their faith, because they believe they belong to this faith.
Yeah, I think the misconception is this. They're confusing the wars that happened, the futuhat, the conquests and all these things that happened. They're assuming that Muslim people came into countries with swords and forced the populace into conversion.
And as well, we have example, which is a clear example, like all these Malawi or what do you call it, Malay countries, like Malaysia, Indonesia, Brunei, and all of this. No war happens there. People, they accept Islam because
West
of
Africa.
West Africa, for example. Many of these countries, people, because of the trade, when they trade and dealt with Muslims, they have accepted Islam and they follow the guidance of Islam, and then they believed in Islam, and that's how it is.
And if everyone was
no sword went there because of manner of Muslims. So what happened? Now we have now a contradiction with that.
We have Christians in Egypt. I mean, we've got about 10 million Christians in Egypt now.
For example, why
are they allowed to exist?
Why they exist until now? Even in Jordan back home, we have as well a Christian back home in Jordan. They have their churches.
I think it's clear, Sheikh, for those who really want to. They're confusing wars that happen between governments, and they're assuming that now that means people came in and were forced by the end of a sword to convert to Islam, which is a misconception.
But as well, we need as well to point that of course there are mistakes that happen. And that's how we have to be fair. Of course there are mistakes that happen in the history, in the past, by Muslims, done by Muslims, exaggerating, doing things which is wrong. The things went wrong in a way or another. So we condemn these acts. That's something which is important.
There's no compulsion of religion. Chapter 2, verse 56.
And as well, it was said that it's one of the territory even that they entered they entered by fight, and then they came to complain to the Khalifa of the time. It was said that in this. Then what happened? That they said they came to us without giving us the warning, nothing. And then the Muslims, they pulled out, the whole army pulled out, and then they give them, okay, if you accept Islam or not. Then the people, because if you could understand that a whole army will pull out from a land where after they conquer that land, because they didn't give them the chance to decide. When those people in that city, they found this is from Muslims, they accepted Islam.
Now, sixth question. If Islam teaches peace, then why do Muslims commit terrorism?
For there's terrorism in any religion. For example, what about Buddhist? Buddhist monks,
like in Burma, for example.
Like in Burma, what's happening now? So of course, we'll find there is. We need to understand that terrorism has no religion. It is an act of people. People, they go, they just understand the scriptures in a way that they think they will take out. Is exactly they will take out the text out of its context, and then they will use it, and then they will use it in a way that they think is right, and which is wrong, and that's totally is not from Islam. We know the scholars of Islam, all these they put their effort and their understanding towards Islam because of what? Because they wanted to bring Islam, to bring to the people the right understanding of Islam.
And it's not really to be honest with you. It's a very popular question, but it's not really an academic one anyways. Okay. We're on question number 7 now. Is there such a thing as 3, 4 or 7 stage jihad?
7 stage jihad? I didn't hear of I didn't hear this before.
Yes.
We know that there is types of jihad: jihad of nafs, jihad of with the tongue, with the speech.
They're talking about this idea of giving them a khiyar, like an option. You either do this or you either do that. What were the steps that Prophet Muhammad took himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he was doing jihad, or the physical jihad? What were the steps that the Sahaba took when they were doing that, and how can that be justified?
Okay, now it's simple. That the way of the Prophet ﷺ in dealing with the things. For example, someone who is not ally with the Prophet ﷺ and not an enemy even could be showing enmity to the Prophet ﷺ. Firstly, he will send a messenger.
So this is an important point. I want to stop you right here. So you're saying that, so for example, the Muslim government at that particular country that is a Muslim government, and they have a peace treaty
with someone. They cannot break that peace treaty until the other side break that peace treaty, regardless.
And so if they try and attack those individuals, they're doing a sin.
They're doing a major sin, not just a small sin. Even there is at the time of Muawiyah radiallahu anhu that they were I don't know if we have time to talk about that, but anyway.
Maybe not, yeah,
but anyway, it's basically short that that the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned in the hadith, you cannot even walk and march towards, if there is a treaty between you and them for a certain period of time, you cannot march towards them until the treaty is finished.
Wow. So
Muawiyah, that at this time they marched, and then one of the companions went and traveled and told him you cannot do it. As soon as they went, they were on the Byzantine borders, then they came all the way, they pulled back, because they are not allowed to do that according to the command of the Prophet ﷺ. The steps that the Prophet ﷺ first, he will send a letter to tell for the people, for example, you are, as a leader, accept Islam, and allow Islam to be spread, or allow people to speak to the people about Islam. Either to accept Islam.
There is a hadith.
There is a hadith. The first hadith, he said, he will call the leader to accept Islam.
Yes.
Then the second thing, he will say, if the leader doesn't want to accept Islam, he will say, leave between me and the people.
So which means what?
Leave between me and the people, which means let me send people, let the people hear about what Islam is about.
Yes.
Yeah. Simple as that. Now, if he didn't allow it, and then he will give the other choice. For example, let's have a treaty. We could have a treaty. Instead, we don't want to be enemy to each other. Let's have kind of a treaty that we don't harm you, don't harm us. And within this treaty, of course, they're going to be Muslim having trade between them. They could have a way people, they could approach them, they could speak to the people about Islam.
But if they don't want to do any of that?
Now, if they rejected this, then this is at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Then he will give, for example, the choice either to accept Islam or you pay jizya if the Muslim is kind of a dominant at the end of the day, and they were kind of one of the big powers at that time.
Would they force them to become Muslims?
No. Now again, even if they fought, now here, who's fighting who? The fight that occurs is between people who prevent Islam to come to that land, or prevent.
So the militants,
people who are militants, the people who fought, who wage war, yeah. So those ones, then the fight could occur between them, and even if they conquer the land, or if that, for example, that enemy was defeated, yet they cannot force the people to accept Islam. So the people they have a choice to live.
I think that is very, very clear, Sheikh.
Yeah.
And then Jazakallah khairan for that. We'll go for the 8th question.
Yeah.
17 minutes and 11 seconds. This is the 8th question. The 8th question is, why did Prophet Muhammad attack caravans? So the sariyas that he would do.
Now the Prophet ﷺ, we need to know that it happened when he was dragged out from Quraysh, from Mecca, and he went to Medina. Of course, all the Sahaba of the Prophet ﷺ, they lost their trade, they lost their markets, they lost their shops, they lost their properties in Mecca. They had all of these things at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. And not just that, many of the Muslims who remained there being killed, being tortured, being forced to go back to paganism, and all of these things. So here the Prophet ﷺ is a way that the Prophet ﷺ, he attacked some of the caravans which belongs to Quraysh, not to anyone, which belongs to Quraysh, to take back the rights of the people that they took it.
That's very clear, Sheikh. I think that's a very clear answer. Jazakumullah khairan. 18 minutes. You've done that in 1 minute.
And Allah Azza wa Jal,
Yes.
from His mercy, by the way, Allah Azza wa Jal, from His mercy, that it wasn't kind of a war that happened, which the Battle of Badr, than the pagan war.
It wasn't a war.
Yeah.
It was a skirmish.
Yeah, so anyway.
Another question. Did the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ overthrow the government in Medina?
No, of course not, because the companion of this, of the Ansar, they accepted the Prophet ﷺ, and they were the vast majority of the people of Medina as they became Muslims, and that's why they welcomed the Prophet ﷺ. And as soon as the Prophet ﷺ he came, or anyone who studies Seerah, as soon as the Prophet ﷺ he gave rights to the people.
What, Jews and Christians?
Jews and Christians, he gave them rights.
What kind of rights did he give?
For example, that they are allies. For example, for any foreign enemy.
So
that's
they will be protected.
They are protected, and he didn't put them on jizya. By the way, at the beginning of that time, there were no jizya. These things being done at that point. So they were kind of allied. They have your own faith. We have our faith, and if there is any foreign enemy, we'll fight them together. We protect Medina against the foreign enemy. So that's this one of the things as well. He made kind of rules and give rights to the people within the Medina, and that's how.
I think that's very, very clear, Sheikh. Now, in 19 minutes 28 seconds. The question now is: were the Muslims expelled from Mecca because of rebellion? So were they the ones making the problems?
No, actually not. Now why there is Fatima radiallahu anha. One day the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was praying by Kaaba, and then they put the camel intestine on his shoulder sallallahu alaihi wasallam while he was praying. Then she came and she was defending her father, and she said, you are harming someone who said Rabbi Allah is my Lord. So the point is that those are the people of Quraysh, they don't want them even to worship Allah in peace. They just wanted to worship Allah in peace. They don't want to fight anyone, they don't want to do that. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ, he refused to the violent act in Mecca. He refused to do that. And that's why even that's Allah said so Allah said in the Quran, for those who Allah commanded them to not to rage or to start to initiate a violent act in Medina, so they stopped it. And that's even we find that Hadith Khabbab ibn al-Arat when he came to the Prophet ﷺ, and he said, you can't help us, just make dua for us. That the Prophet ﷺ, you are hasty, it's not the time to do all of these things.
Question number 11, Sheikh, is why are Muslims reluctant to say terrorists are not Muslim?
Now we need to understand that if someone committing a terror act, we can't take him out from the boundary of Islam. That's something which is important. Even though some scholars who accept the opinion that the Khawarij, they are not from Muslim, they are not Muslim, and those the Khawarij who used to commit these terror acts, and what generally they have the matter of takfir, taking people out of Islam, fighting Muslims for non-Muslims, and killing Muslims for non-Muslims, and of course committing terror acts inside the Muslim land and outside the Muslim land. That's what generally they do. So yet, even though the right opinion amongst the scholars that they still have the title of Islam, even though they are evildoer, but there are other things which the Prophet ﷺ, he criticized them, and he condemned them, and he said it
doesn't mean that we're endorsing their actions.
Of course not. The Prophet ﷺ, he said they are the dogs of the hellfire. Can you imagine? There is no description that the Prophet ﷺ has described. No one. He said those outlaws, they are the dogs of the hellfire. Can you imagine this? He said alayhi severe words against those individuals. So it's enough for them, but for us, we cannot take them out of the boundary of Islam, and Allah Azza wa Jal is the one who will judge them in the day of judgment.
Okay, excellent. Question number 12, Sheikh, is: do Muslims believe that they will kill all the Jews at the end of times?
No, now we need to understand now what's the meaning of all the Jews. We don't know what will happen at the end of the time, most of the things, but we know that there's going to be a war that will happen, that the Prophet ﷺ, there's going to be a war, and they're going to be not necessarily all the Jews are going to be involved in it. That's something which is known. Only people who are involved in the war against Muslims at that point, those are the ones. Allah said, قاتلوا الذين يقاتلونكم, fight the ones who fight you. So at that time, that Allah said in the Quran, of course the Muslims, they're going to be sticking to the wording of the Quran. They will not fight anyone who's not a fighter. So that's not true. And this one of the things which we need to know. So if there's going to be a war,
the hadith of the gharqa tree and
they said they're going to be on the west side of the river, and you're going to be on the east side of the river, and then they're going to all the trees they're going to say, oh, you believer, there's a Jew behind me, or something like that alongside this hadith. So the meaning of this hadith, those who rage war against Muslims, they're going to be fought between. They're going to be
it's
war
a prediction of the
between
future,
and not just that. The people who will be with Muslims fighting them as well. There is in some narration that the Christian and the Muslim they're going to fight a common enemy. The Christian and the Muslim they're going to fight a common enemy.
So these are predictions, not commands.
Yeah, these are predictions that commands to do. That's one of the things. And as well, if it's there, then Israel they're going to be involvement between Muslim and Christian for a common enemy. That's how the hadith says.
Okay. Question number 13 is suicide bombing allowed in Islam?
No, a'udhu billah. We have that in that Allah Azza has mentioned in the Quran, وَلَا تُلْقُوا بِأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ. He said, which means don't harm yourself, don't kill yourself, throw yourself to the death. Allah Azza didn't allow this in the Quran. So anything which is
and the hadith of Bukhari, the person who does suicide.
The hadith of Bukhari that the Prophet ﷺ, and another hadith, the one who killed himself with something, he will be killing himself in the hellfire eternally, punished with that eternally. Even some of the scholars of Islam, they said the one who committed suicide, regardless, they said this person that he will not even enter Jannah. Even some of the scholars, they said you don't pray on him. And you could say it is very severe act. And even though some of the scholars, they said he's still a Muslim under the banner of Islam, we pray on him after his death, and we bury him in the Muslim graveyard. But in the same time, he committed a major sin.
Question number 13. Question number 14. Question number 14 is: do Muslims want to take over the world?
SubhanAllah, I don't know why sometimes people ask this question. We need to know that the Prophet ﷺ, Islam will enter every single house. Even either people accepting Islam, or they will enter the people they will know about Islam. That's the meaning.
It doesn't mean all the Muslims, everyone's going to become Muslim.
No, it doesn't mean everyone become a Muslim. It doesn't mean this.
It's already entered. You could argue it's probably already entered most people's homes through television.
Yeah, for example, television nowadays. People
internet,
yeah.
Right. Okay.
Or even books of Quran or books. Alhamdulillah, now many of the translated Quran in many people's library, which is.
I mean, this people watching this is an example of entering their homes. We're entering their homes right now.
For example.
All right. Do martyrs really receive 72 virgins in paradise?
There is a hadith that the Prophet ﷺ that they're going to be promised for those ones who will have and the meaning of that Allah Azza wa Jalla has giving them that those people who, for example, who sacrificed their life and they did, for example, for the right cause in defending their land, so in defending their land, defending their religion. Allah Azza wa Jalla has mentioned that about them and giving them that. Now, so Allah.
Well, what's the problem?
So what's the problem with that? Let's say, I don't get it. Sometimes, this Allah's will, one of the things, and Allah said this to them. And is it the problem that they are virgin, or because they are women, or what is it?
I think I think you're right. I think it's the idea of it's this feeling that why is it women being given to men as there are subservient entities in Jannah? Well, I always say when people say this. That you have ghilman in heaven serving women. They serve them with cups and whatever.
Yeah, they serve them.
It's not just women that serve men.
Yeah. And not just that, as well, Allah Azza wa Jalla as well promised the women as well, the believer women, to be better than all of these Hur al-Ain in Jannah. The women will be better than them. Even they will say to them that they will be jealous. The Hur al-Ain will be jealous from the believer women in Jannah. And then they will say, the believer will say, we are the one who used to fast, we are the Muslimat, the one who used to fast, the one who used to pray, and he didn't pray. We are the one who used to fast, he didn't fast. We are the one who did such and such. They will mention about their virtues that they have done. So that's why Allah Azza has honored them in Akhirah, in Jannah, in Paradise.
Okay. 16th question, Sheikh. Are all non-Muslim countries considered Dar al-Harb?
No, that's not true, because we need to know that there is Dar al-Harb, which means a war that there is a war between them, and there is a war between them and the Muslims. Simple as that. If there is a ahd, if there is a treaty or something like that, it's Dar ahd, it's not Dar harb.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty
And that's
straightforward.
similarly under when we are under this banner, for example, of the United Nations, for example, or under, kind of there's ambassadors between them, between all these countries. That's kind of add this as a treaty.
Why are non-Muslims living under Islamic rule in called dhimmis? Why are they called dhimmis?
ذمة من أهل الذمة. أهل الذمة يعني they have ذمة الله ورسوله. They have يعني the ذمة. It's actually the honorably يعني honoring name. Yeah, means they have the protection from Allah and His Messenger. They are under the protection of Allah and His Messenger. That's the meaning of ذمة. Yeah, so that's how is it. If it's honoring them, it's not something which is يعني belittling them. This is the meaning of that.
Okay. Number 18 is living under dhimmi status similar to apartheid rule, like blacks and whites in South Africa.
No, that's not true. No, absolutely not true. And sometimes, amazingly, the people of Dhimma, Ahl Dhimma, if they pay the Dhimma, for example, if they pay the jizya, yeah, then it will be much less than someone paying zakah. يعني a Muslim
I think
zakah.
there's a big misconception around the
jizya. The jizya, they said it's 1 dinar a year or something like that, which is nothing. And if you think about
it's less than zakat.
It's less than zakat. A person will pay 2.5%.
They're getting preferential treatment.
If you think about it, they are treated better than in terms of financial, better than Muslims. If you in the eye of the people who think
economically.
Yeah.
Are Muslims allowed to convert people to Islam?
No, a'udhu billah.
Because obviously la ikrah
fi din.
There's no compulsion of religion. Okay, that was really quick.
Yeah.
And the verse has not been abrogated, yes?
No, not abrogated at all.
Is there such a thing as creeping Sharia?
Like what?
I think it's a phrase they use in the West. The Sharia is coming in. We're trying to slowly put the Sharia in the country.
No, actually, no. Because the things we need to understand that as long as we live in the West countries, we deal with them on a daily basis, buying and selling and dealing with them. So it's not about creeping, and it's about dealing with them. That's how it was all the time.
Okay. Question 21.
Yeah.
Is there such a thing as stealth jihad? Jihad khafi, coming in slowly. Are we all trying to creep in the system and trying to?
No, that's not allowed. Again, the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned in the hadith, أد الأمانة لمن ائتمنك ولا تخن من خانك, means fulfill the amana, the trust, for the people who have entrusted you, and do not betray them, even the one who betrays you. We can do that.
Question 22. Are Muslims in a civilizational jihad with the West?
No, of course not. Of course not. We have a treaty, we have all of these big organization, big Muslim organization who are in the West countries, which helps Muslim all around the world. So no, of course not.
Okay.
And as well, they open the doors for the Muslim refugee from many places, which is we don't think in this way.
Did Prophet Muhammad ﷺ permit attacking innocents during night raids?
No, the Prophet he didn't allow to attack innocent people. عليه الصلاة والسلام. Even he condemned that. We mentioned that before.
ما كانت عليها أن تقتل.
Yeah, for example, the hadith of the woman who passed away, who was killed in the battlefield.
It wasn't for her to be killed.
She shouldn't be killed. So the Prophet, he condemned that, and it was mistaken in her killing in the war.
Yes, ما كان عليها أن تقتل is one hadith, but there is هم منهم. They are from them. There's another hadith that says they are from them. Does that mean to say, Sheikh, that now, because they are from them, we can kill them as well?
No. Listen to this. Now, if there is a war being raised against Muslims, and that's something which we need to understand. People who are supporters of this war, they are included in the army, and regardless what they are, women or men or women or men, regardless. Those who are supporters, even though they didn't have swords, but yet they are aiding and helping, the people who wage war against Muslims. Those are the ones who are included within the.
So you could call this is collateral damage.
Yeah,
you can say it's collateral damage. It's not. You're not. It's not the qasd. The objective is not to kill them.
The objective is to defeat the army who comes who comes who wage war against Muslims. Simple as that. That's
And I remember reading this in Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani's.
Yeah, he mentioned that.
He mentioned also that to do Jama' bayn al-adillatayn. He's saying that ما كان عليها أن تقتل, meaning that she wasn't there to be killed.
Yeah, because she wasn't among those
she wasn't trying to.
She wasn't trying to help. She wasn't included in that war.
Yeah.
But for the other ones who are aiding and helping, for example, nowadays we find people, we find soldiers are men or women, both of them. Yeah. So those men and women, they are soldiers considered to be the same. So they will take the same ruling. That's how is it. Similarly, in the old times, some women used to fight. Some women as well used to aid and help the army, so they are included in that, but not necessarily they will be targeted or subjected to be attacked or killed.
Okay. Now, next question: the Prophet Muhammad, did he say al-harbu khud'a, meaning that the war is deceit?
Yeah, that's how generally it is. Anyone who does any military commandant, he has to understand that, of course. You have to know what's the weak side and the weak point of your enemy in order to.
I think Sun Tzu said something very similar in his book The Art of War, but no one brings that up.
Yeah, I don't know.
People read that book in a sense that
just only any book of any commandant.
Yeah, the thing is, Sheikh, I think what it is people in the West, they don't realize that the Quran is an advice. It is a guidelines for not only for the layman, but it's an example for a general and a fighter. It's for everybody.
But let's remove this misconception. Let's remove this misconception. It doesn't mean I come to you, I smile, and say you peace, we have peace, and then after that I kill you. It's not like that. For example, we have the khud'a of or the deceive that Khalid bin Walid, what he did in Mu'tah, because there were few, there were 3,000 against 80,000 or more people who used in some narration. So what they did, so he moved because they fought for a few days. So each soldier, they know who's the people that he's fighting. So what he did, he put the one who's on the right to the left, and the one who's on the left to the right, the one who's in the front to the back, and the one who's in the back to the front, and he commanded the army to clean their clothes, to come with the new clothes. So when they woke up in the morning, they thought they are fighting a new army. So that's kind of a way to, for example, to mislead the enemy in order to put them down, in order to it will be easy for the Muslims or the army to defeat the enemy. And similar, it was done by many of the commanders.
I think that is a sufficient answer. We'll go for question number 25 now. Is jihad, if jihad is only to spread justice, why do they take spoils of war? Ghanaim.
Who said jihad is only a way of justice? We didn't say that.
Yeah.
No, jihad is not the only way of justice. There are many ways of justice, dealing with the people in a good way. What Allah said in the Quran, وأحسن إن الله وأحسن إن الله يحب المحسنين. Being good, Allah really loves those who are good. And of course, to treat the people, to deal with them in a good way, that's kind of justice. That's one of the things.
Well, here they're talking about the ghanaim, the spoils of war, especially slaves, women, children. What was going on there?
Now we need to know that the Prophet ﷺ, not all the time he enslaved people, not every single
in war context.
Even not in every single war that happened. There are certain people who the Prophet ﷺ, generally there is a treaty between the Prophet ﷺ and some people. They have a peace treaty between them. And those ones who have the treaty with the Prophet ﷺ, they break that treaty or they betray that treaty. Yeah? While the Prophet ﷺ was in the war. Then the Prophet ﷺ, when he fought them back, he took he enslaved the women and the children, and then so it happened in some occasion. But this occasion was, if you think about it, and they said it was like, so it is the Muslim leader will decide what is the right thing that happened generally. But we say no, the ghanaim, or taking the war booties, you could say, and all of that, not necessarily in every single war. Firstly, secondly, as well, if the other side is defeated, so it's part of the if the other side will do much more.
So it was part of the social, political, and economic milieu at that time.
Yeah.
It was something which was known as a practice. But now, for example, I've seen many things written by scholars saying that this practice of bringing in, for example,
enslaving people,
calling it enslaving, indenturing individuals, right? that practice would not be applicable today in any way, shape, or
at all, because
Yes.
because the idea that was the practice, the common practice at that time.
Yeah.
Even though, if you could see, if you read in the First World War and the Second World War, you will see people they became like
Prisoners of war.
Not even some of the areas they didn't take even prisoner of war. People became even worse than animals in killing one another. Islam doesn't allow this to happen. Yeah, Islam condemning, for example, people who surrender himself to be killed. It's not allowed in Islam to do anyone who surrender himself to be killed.
And we will have a special, a special segment just on slavery and exactly
but mainly,
how Islam came to, what the higher objectives
yeah,
of Islam.
but mainly, of course, now this practice is not there.
Yes,
and that's how we don't say the practice is not there, and there is as well laws as well, which is the people agreed generally on these laws by, for example, the UN and others, and that has to be respected.
You would say that this is the Quran or Islam came to rid. One of the higher objectives of Islam is to encourage this institutional, the institutional end of this practice.
Yes, of course. That's how you find it. You find them always for example, and then even the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam,
which is, sorry, I didn't translate it, chapter 90 of the Quran.
The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam as well said, اتقوا الله في النساء وما ملكت أيمانكم, should Allah Azza with the women and what your right hand possesses, which means the slaves. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, of course, his last as well wording, alayhi salatu wasalam, commanding the people to take care of them, and if there is a way out for them, alhamdulillah, that's one of the things.
The Quran clearly says to free them.
Free them. Yes, there is a way out always. Yeah.
Okay. Now, number 26 was Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam use of catapults. Catapults.
Was that? Yeah.
Yes.
They said
justified when innocents could be killed.
They said it was used, but we don't know that any narration. It was used. They said
Khandaq.
It was used not al Khandaq. It was said it was used in at the time of Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu. They said that they used but that's the only narration that I remember in the battle of when they were fighting Musaylim al-Kadhdab. That's the only time which we have a narration of that. But it was used. It was one of the things which was used at that time, and of course it was targeting not innocent people. It was targeting, of course, people who are raging the war against the Muslims.
Did the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam say no two religions can coexist in the land of the Arabs?
Now he mentioned alayhi salatu wasalam that he mentioned that truly. But the question is, why did the Sahaba of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, like at the time of Abu Bakr and Umar, why he didn't drag all the Jews and Christians outside, or the pagan outside the Arab Peninsula? The meaning of that by the da'wah, and as well not to increase the number, because at the end of the day that land, it contains Mecca, Mecca, which is a holy place and a sacred place for Muslims, and that's all. And that's all. One of the things which is the people there, they go there to do the act of worship, simple as that, and to keep it simple.
And that is all of the questions. Jazakumullahu khairan, ya Sheikh. We have covered a lot of ground in 41 minutes, which is even less than Sheikh Mohammed Athman's one. Now he's got a time to beat for the next episode, and we will do our next episode, inshallah, on a very important topic. In fact, maybe we can have both of you in the next episode.
Inshallah.
It will be on law and laws of Islam, punitive laws more specifically. I hope you enjoyed this. Remember, guys, if you want to kind of share this video to someone who wants specific answers, then everything will be time-stamped and you can just share them that particular answer. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum.